After reading this verse in Surah Al-Jumu'ah, I ended up completely shifting how I do business. And alhamdulillah, I went from stuck at 5k per month, really struggling, to scaling to 30k per month easily. And inshallah, this video, I want to show you the exact verse, the way I analyzed it, and the way I applied it in my life that helped me put baraka in my business. That way I could avoid displeasing Allah completely, so that you can too, right? Avoid any haram money whatsoever. And putting baraka in your business is the most important thing, because it's a bit like just having your business on steroids. Everything feels easy, everything feels like it's smooth, everything feels like there's no hardship whatsoever. And without baraka, it kind of feels like you're running on a treadmill. You're putting in a lot of effort, but you're not going anywhere. Now, for this verse, I'm going to get my friend MK, Muhammad, to read it out loud for you, because he has a beautiful recitation. So enjoy his recitation, then we're going to go into the analysis.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون.
So these two ayat, and I know I said it was one verse, but it's kind of two put together. What you want to understand from them is very, very simple. If you want to go deep in the translations, absolutely you can look that up online. But I kind of want to focus on two things, which is number one, when you hear the call to prayer, and specifically on Jama'ah, Allah tells us to shut down our businesses, which we can understand kind of that, if you hear the call to prayer another time, but you have to have your business open, then potentially you can keep it open. But primarily the fact that we have to prioritize our prayers. We have to be able to understand that when we hear the adhan, whether it be on your phone, whether it be in person, you stop what you're doing, go to pray. You go do something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have something deep in remembrance of Allah. You do the ultimate form of worship, right? Salat. That's the first thing. Secondly, Allah tells us to go out and go back into our business after the prayer and, take from what He has given us on this earth. The reason I put that together was because for me, the most important thing to understand is that victory, which comes at the end of A and number 10, victory comes from remembrance of Allah. So the more you remember Allah, the more you'll be victorious in your life. And that comes into business as well. So there's two kind of things, two habits I kind of got from this that I'll tell you a little bit later. But it comes back to this story that I have. I always tell it to people, right? I remember when I was like 7 years old or so, I was going with my uncle to pray Salat al-Jumu'ah, and there was this guy shutting down his shop. And he was wearing a thobe similar to mine now, but he was shutting down his shop. And I was thinking to myself, this guy's stupid. My mom's going to go shopping in a second, and she's going to go to whichever shop is open. This guy's losing out on money. What an idiot. Right? I ain't got nothing to do. I don't have school on a Friday. I'm going to go pray and chill. And I obviously the logic of a kid, right, is a bit stupid sometimes. But I was thinking to myself that, businesses that close or businesses that put aside their customers just to focus on whatever they were doing in their salat, I didn't understand how much better praying was for them than actually getting customers. Not just for their business, but for their own sake, right? You're victorious not just in this life, but in the next when you go pray, when you prioritize your salat. And obviously this is kind of my main memory that I have around this, but I remember for me specifically when I was working on my business and I wanted to scale it. I wanted to scale it because I wanted to have a bigger impact on people's lives, and I also wanted to have a bigger impact on my mum's life. But in the process, I had to start working more hours. I would advertise my business, do outreach and other stuff for 4 hours every single day. And then the more clients I got, the more time I'd have to spend with those clients working with them. So I ended up having 10, 12-hour days almost every day. And I'm ashamed to admit that there came to a point where I almost missed so many prayers. And if that prayer felt like a burden, I didn't really want to pray. The old way of me doing things was just working loads and loads of hours. And I remember sitting after Salat al-Asr and I wasn't able to go to the masjid. And I thought to myself, there has to be a different way. I have to be able to continue scaling this business without working more and more hours, sacrificing my iman, sacrificing my deen. I remember one of my friends, Muaz, telling me dude, I don't see you here enough. Like, what are you even doing? So, oh, you know, I've got the business and stuff. He's like, yeah, but like, surely you can spare 15, 20 minutes to come pray. And I was like, dude, you're right, because I have no excuse. And I'd honestly feared that if I couldn't prioritize my deen and my iman, I'd end up losing it. I was scared that I'd end up losing Allah. And selfishly, I was scared that I'd end up losing His favor, because I fully understand that everything that I had and everything that I do have comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I still remember as well, it was a summer and I was in Tunisia, and I just jumped on this like bed in the hotel. It was me, my cousin, and my brother Hamza. My cousin Hamza, I remember we jumped into the bed and I was just chilling, and I was like, I kind of want to listen to some Quran, and I was like, I want to go do something else in a second. So I was scrolling through my phone looking for like a surah that was short, and I came across Surah Al-Jum'ah, and it was 3 minutes, and I was like, oh, today is Nahar Al-Jum'ah. Like, I finished reading Surah Al-Kahf, let's see what this surah is about. And I didn't fully understand it at that point, but I remember when it came to the last 3 ayat or so, and I was thinking to myself, like, this is kind of true. Do I do this? Do I prioritize the prayer over my business? And I thought to myself, no, I don't really. But it kind of gave me the push, the oomph, alhamdulillah, to kind of go back to understanding that Allah is the one who provides everything for me anyways. He's the one that's provided me this bed to jump into. He's the one that's provided me to be able to go to this hotel. He's the one that's provided me everything. And success comes from His remembrance. So I thought to myself, well, how can I start remembering Allah more during my business? How can I put Allah first in my business? Maybe I can include Him in some way in my business. And how can I prioritize prayer again? How do I have my day structured around remembrance and prayer? And this is where I came up with these two little habits. The first one was time blocking. Now, you've probably heard of time blocking before. If you've ever watched a productivity video, you have Ali Abdal, a bunch of other people tell you to time block. And for me, if I show you my phone really quickly, the way I time block my prayers is this. So there'll be purple and dark blue ones, right? That's how I time block my prayers. I'll have in the evenings, I'll have the purple ones, which give me the exact adhans and like tahajjud and qiyam al-layl and fajr and the sunrise and stuff like that. And as you can see, nobody can book a meeting with me during that time. I block it off for half an hour because that's enough time for me to go to the masjid, pray, and come back, right? Pray jama'ah, unless it's maghrib. The maghrib prayer is usually really long. And to be honest with you, after I started doing this consistently, the business started feeling really easy. Like when I pause to go pray, I'd get loads of ideas. On my walk to the masjid, I'd get loads of ideas to the problems I was having. I'd get loads of solutions. And to be honest with you, I'd get really motivated to go back and work in the business. And when I was praying, alhamdulillah, I wasn't allowing myself to be distracted by the business, because a lot of us, we still pray, but our mind is elsewhere. And when we say Allahu Akbar, what are we trying to say? Right? Allahu Akbar, like ignore the business. Allahu Akbar, just focus on Allah. And for me, that priority always made my life easier, always. And then after the prayer, I'd have kind of renewed energy to go and work in the business. Now, second habit I did was have alarms for dhikr. Alhamdulillah, I don't have them anymore, just because I don't need to. There's a 7:30 alarm, even though I don't need it today. But for me, having an alarm for dhikr meant that I could just remind myself constantly. I'd have an alarm, let's say at 1 p.m. and then 3 p.m. and then 4 p.m. I'd remind myself to literally just say dhikr. Right, remember Allah. Say Allahu Akbar. Say Subhanallah. Say Alhamdulillah. Say Astaghfirullah. Do whatever you can to remember Allah. And therefore, when that alarm would go off, when I'd go back to doing work in my business, whether I'd be preparing a video, I'd be doing outreach, whatever it would be, I'd always have Allah in my mind. I'd go, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. I'd be filming the outreach, Allahu Akbar. I'd be typing out some things in the video, Allahu Akbar. And that allowed me to kind of avoid any things that would be haram. Right? I know I pitched this video to you, like this one verse that's going to avoid haram money. Any money that isn't blessed is not necessarily haram. It's just not blessed. It doesn't have baraka inside it. And for me, the priority is to avoid any sort of conflict with Allah. And when you remember Him, when you have taqwa during your business endeavors, you'll avoid everything that is haram, because it's so easy to fall into haram. It's so easy to fall into haram with business. Right? You end up skipping a prayer. You end up ignoring somebody. You end up telling a lie. You end up pushing somebody to do something that's not good for them. It could be hundreds of different things. And I'm a big advocate for realizing that money has no evil necessarily. Like, you loving money is evil, but money itself, it's not evil. Right? Nobody cares about money like that. And for me, it's the less you remember Allah, the more you start loving money, and you start loving the business instead of loving Allah. So that's why you need to avoid this, to avoid any haram, right? And that's why I'm trying to tell you from the habits. So again, the business side, feeling effortless in this, in the community that I have, I tell everybody to do this. I tell everybody, look, just time block your prayers, prioritize them every single day. We're prioritizing baraka over hours. And I remember my friend Ziyad coming up to me in the masjid during Ramadan after Taraweeh, and he was asking me, he's like, Fedi, like, I feel like I'm not doing enough. And I was like, how come? He's like, well, I got to help my parents do this. I'm reading Quran. I'm doing this. I'm doing my studies. I don't feel like I'm putting enough time in the business. I was like, Akhi, this is a very Western paradigm that we have from, like I said, like Hormozy, a bunch of other people that tell us work more and more and more. The way we measure our success in our businesses is how much barakah does my business have? Not how many hours do I spend in it, but how much barakah does it have? And the barakah that you get in the business is obviously stuff you do within the business. You have to work hard in the business, but mostly outside the business, right? When you take that time to help your parents, when you take that time to pray properly, when you take that time to read more Quran, when you take that time to remember Allah, that's putting barakah in your business. That's putting your business on steroids, right? People have to work 12 hours to get what we can do in 2. SubhanAllah al-Azim. So we're very, very blessed as Muslims. And now, alhamdulillah, seeing as I have a business of freedom without any stress and I'm able to pray whenever I want, alhamdulillah, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And most importantly, as I was telling you earlier, I was really afraid that I'd lose my connection with Allah. And alhamdulillah, I can only say that my connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has grown very, very close, alhamdulillah. So again, I want you to prioritize those 2 habits because I generally think that just having them blocked off, right, the prayer times, it forces you, look, there's no meetings, there's nothing else, just go to the prayer, right, or go pray in your own home. And that way you get that into that mentality. And having the alarms for dhikr, it cuts you off, it cuts off your pattern. Yes, you can turn off the alarm, but you heard the alarm. So now a part of your mind is thinking, oh, I got to do dhikr. And bear that in mind because as we move forward with the business, as you continue scaling and growing the business, akhi, you want to prioritize Allah over everything. And the more you prioritize Allah, the more the business will be easier to do, easier to scale. Everything will be easy because the solutions will come naturally, right? We don't end up realizing that. A lot of the times when we struggle with a business, we feel like there's loads of hurdles and mental blocks, etc. It's because we're not prioritizing Allah. Allah can make those things easy for us. So just remember that. Bi'idhnillah, this video was useful for you. And by the way, I do have another video that I think is really important for you to watch. So if you want to figure out how shaitan is stopping you from succeeding and attracting wealth into your life, how shaitan is literally using every single tool that he can to try and destroy you and your business, then feel free to watch this video. And bi'idhnillah, I'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.